Hello and welcome to this short video on using Split with FullStory. I'm your host, David Brooke Martin. As a quick review, Split downloads the feature flags or the rollout plans so that they can be evaluated locally inside of the browser or the mobile client. We're going to be talking about the browser today. The FullStory integration is special because we use the feature called Impression Listener in the Split SDK to pass the information about each valuation to the FullStory cloud, not pictured here. So you'll actually get to see exactly how that works during this video. So let's jump in. In order to illustrate, I created a little web page here that has a cute picture of a dog with a dog slogan, and we're trying to get people to click on adopt and donate. So to start with, we're going to put a feature flag into the page, and this is the page itself. There's a little CSS at the top. There's a div at the bottom that has the banner and the image defined. So what can we do to put Split into this page to actually run an experiment? So let's go to Split and create a new Split or a feature flag. So we'll call this one the FullStory dog, the FS dog, and it will be of traffic type user. I'll click create. We'll add the default rule, which in Split's case is always go dark. So this is a new feature flag and it's set to go dark. So what do we need to do to put this flag into the page? Well, first of all, we need to go to the Split help page. So it's called help.split.io. And right at the top of the page for the JavaScript SDK, which is what I'm looking at right here, there's an include. So we're going to take that include and we're going to bring it back over to our page and we're going to paste it in. We're going to do something very similar for FullStory. If you're using this locally, you might have to add HTTPS here, : in order to get this to work. I have a little web server running locally. So we could continue to follow the instructions on this page. It's excellent, but I'm going to show you a little shortcut. On our Split, next to the kill switch, there's a menu for syntax, and we can actually pull up JavaScript and then just copy and paste what we find right on the page. So I'm going to take this out, make sure I got that copied, and on the page we'll add a script tag for our JavaScript and drop it right in. I'm going to format this just a little bit. And you'll notice that the key has been automatically supplied. That's really useful sometimes. Finding the API key is tricky. There's an if then else statement block all set up for you for this Split, the on, the off. We're not going to use that, so I'm actually going to just go ahead and delete that. But right now I will print out what the treatment is. So this is just a quick way, a debug to check that Split is hot on the page. So I'll reload the page and the console says off, just what we expect it to because the feature was off. Remember, we're going dark. But let's get fancier now. So if I come back to my Split, I'm going to do a dynamic config. So this section called attaching configuration to your treatments, we're going to use that. Even before I go there, I'm going to add a third treatment. So we won't just have a Boolean on off anymore. We'll have a blue, we'll have a red, and we'll have a green. And what are those going to mean on the page? Well, we want to change the appearance, change the picture of the dog, change the slogan of the dog. So when we open up this dynamic config, we can give key value pairs. So we'll start by defining the image. And to make things a little bit faster, I keep the images just in the comment at the bottom of this page. So I'll take blue will be the dog by the door. And the image for red will be the one that we're using right now, the origin image, the first arrival of the dog. And then we'll also have the dog by the couch. We'll use that one for our green image. And notice I'm giving them all the same key, but I'm giving them different values. Now we're going to do even a little bit more. We're going to put some text because that banner there, it says adopt a dog. We want to switch that out. So I'm going to add some text. We'll make this one be this dog is lonesome. And we'll make the red one be something plaintive like bring me home. And we'll make the text for, oh, forgot to add text here. You definitely want to do that. You need that key. So we'll add the text key for the dog on the couch, and its value is going to be this dog, not God, is chilling. If I can type. All right, and now we'll save the changes. So right now the page doesn't know anything about this additional information, although we haven't broken anything that's important. But what I can do is I can come to the syntax again, and now the syntax has been updated because of my dynamic config. So we get this get treatment with config, and then it actually conveniently parses the JSON. So I will go back to my page. So lines 42 and 43 now can be swapped out. Now there are these dynamic config. And so how are we going to realize this on the page? This is the only part of this that's maybe just a little bit out of the ordinary. It's with the document object model in JavaScript. So I can say get the call to action by ID. Where do I get that ID? It's right below. Here's the call to action. And we're going to set the inner HTML of that element to configs.txt. And for the image, it's the same idea. Get element by ID. And the image is called banner. So I can put banner here. And source, in the case of an image, configs.image. And that will put the URL in. And now we're on the red treatment. So if I refresh, we'll have the same image, but it should be a different text. So let's see. Yep, bring me home. And let's have a little more fun with it. If we come back to the split, we can actually put this on blue now and confirm. And one thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set this up so that any traffic to this page is going to get each treatment with about 1/3 probability. So equal probability to each other. They each get that treatment. But the user ID has to be different because Split is smart. The user ID is sticky by default. So they'll get the same treatment unless we do something a little bit different with our HTML. So let me show you what we can do. I've got this little user ID generator here, UUID v4. I'm going to put that into the page. And then I'm going to set the user, we'll do it as a const user ID equals UUID v4. And then we'll set the split user ID to what effectively is now going to be a random user ID with each page load, right? So with this change, what I expect is that with each page load, I will randomly get a different treatment. And that's in fact exactly what's happening. Sometimes they're going to recur, but they'll come back to a different treatment, right? Okay, so now that we set that up, let's set up FullStory. So FullStory is no sweat. You can come to the FullStory settings and then go to the FullStory setup. And here's the JavaScript that we need to put into the page to actually do the session capture. So I'll copy it. And then I will go to the top of the page. We'll give them the top heading here. And it looks like they already have script defined. Now something I do that you don't have to do, but I think it's convenient to temporarily switch the debug to true so you can see the activity in the console window. So that puts FullStory on the page and Split on the page, but they're not integrated yet. Split needs to pass its feature flag evaluations to FullStory. So how do we do that? Well, if we come to the instructions that are on this page, FullStory is under integrate on the help.split.io page. And what you'll find towards the top of this page is the JavaScript that you need to do to get the two tools to talk to each other. So the first thing is you need to get FullStory to identify its session with the same user ID that Split is using. So you can tell I'm actually already well set up for this based on what we've just done. I should be able to come into this page where we've set the user ID and say FullStory identify user ID, and that will take care of the right user ID being set inside of the session. But there's a little bit more. I mentioned when I showed you the architecture, we have an impression listener. This is a callback that will pass impression data. So inside the callback, we do a FullStory.event with a split evaluation event, and we pass that impression data in. So we need to do that as well. So here inside what we call at Split the SDK config, we'll put the impression listener, and we'll set the impression listener's log impression to a log impression event. Does that look right? Impression listener, log impression. Yep, that looks good. And then we have to declare the event. So I'll just put the event right here. Log impression. It takes the impression data. Do we get that much right? Log impression data looks good. And then we do the FullStory event. So this is, of course, the FullStory API. So it takes the split. You might be able to get away with a different event name, but to be safe, we'll stick with this one. And then we'll pass the impression data. Now, I like just doing a quick little bit of logging dbm log impression just to make sure that that gets called, because the integration won't work if the event data doesn't get passed. So that makes it nice and easy. Okay, so with that, we can come back to our page and reload. First thing you see is there's a bunch of FullStory logging at the bottom of the page. So we know now that, you know, as we click on the buttons and the things that are happening on the page, this activity is actually getting logged over to FullStory. I'm going to reload the page once so we get the dog on the couch there. And let's see if we can get the dog by the door. So it depends on how quickly these things are switching over. But we're getting different treatments for different IDs, because remember, we're now randomly generating the ID. So to both Split and to FullStory, it's as if a different anonymous user has used the page. I did that specifically to test things out, because now, awesome, now in FullStory, we have some of our integrated sessions coming in. So let's take a look at these sessions. If I open up user 4011, here's that generated user ID that we had. And if we want to take a look at the session to see which one it was, sure enough, this is the dog on the couch. And you'll notice that it has split evaluation variables on the right. And if I roll over those evaluation variables, it'll show you the full impression that came from Split, including the treatment, which was called impression.treatment_str. And that is set to green, just what it should be for the dog on the couch. So what can we do with FullStory? Well, I think what I should show you first is that in the documentation, there's some screenshotted sections that talk you through all the details about how to handle this. But to give you a quick look at what's possible here, we can, in FullStory, go to create a new segment. So we'll say segments, new segment, and we're going to look at the split evaluation event. You can see that it's available here. And we're going to set that split evaluation event to a particular treatment. So I can add to the filter here, custom event, split evaluation, and impression.treatment equals green. You'd probably pair this up with the impression split name too. So let's do that. So I'm going to put in the impression.feature. And this is going to be FS dog for us, right? That was the name of the split we created. So now that I save this segment, I'm going to be looking for, we'll call this session the green dogs. And we could do the same thing for our other treatments, the red and the blue. Now we're going to look at just those users that had that green dog experience. So you can see the power here inside of your applications and your environments. You not only feature flag, but you can see in the recordings which feature flag was presented. So it's easy to come back in FullStory and check out the user experience based on those flags. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. My name again is David Brooke Martin. You can get me at david.martin@split.io. Thanks for your time.